Hi there, in this video I'm going to cover brilliant content ideas for your creative business. So if you've kind of just hopped back on the social media wheel, or you're trying out email marketing or videos or your blog, literally anywhere, and you've been thinking about content ideas, what kind of content should I post, what kind of content is right, especially for the creative business, in this video I'm going to share those amazing content ideas that you can try. Let's get started. So the very first content idea you should be creating is before and after, and this is especially for creative businesses, because the idea of a creative business is simply taking something that didn't exist or something that was just like yeah, and making it absolutely brilliant, making it beautiful, making it just bringing out the beauty in it, right? So it's always the best thing, it's always really brilliant when you can share like a before and then an after, to say this is what this thing looked like before and then this is what it looks like after. Now if it's for a photography business, obviously this is pretty easy, just showing like the raw image and then showing after you've edited it. But then if you're thinking about like writing, if you're a content creator, if you're a writer, if maybe there isn't like a before, then you can simply just talk about the process, right? So you can talk about how you went from, if for example, let's say you're a social media manager and you're creating content, you can talk about the research that you go through in putting those ideas together, what the ideation process is like for you, and then what your finished content calendar looks like. So that's the very first thing. The second content idea that I have for you is to share your clients or your customer testimonials. Now, if you don't have testimonials, in other words, testimonials typically involve like a previous customer or client speaking about your business, speaking about the service or product that they bought from you. You can also have use cases. So use cases is simply like, okay, I've worked with this person, these are the results that we're able to tell. So the difference between testimonials and use cases is that testimonials, it is your client or your customer that is telling the story, while use cases, you are the one explaining what I've done. So for example, I ran a Facebook ad for this client, this and this and this is what we did, these were the results, this is the process, and at the end of the day, this is how I was able to help them reach this result, right? So that is the second content idea I have for you. Third content idea I have for you is to share behind the scenes. This is absolute one of the most interesting types of content that your audience always wants to see, especially for creative businesses. The reason is because for traditional like offices or organizations, a lot of people know what that looks like. You walk into an office, you see everybody with the whole, what's it called again, the way that it's seated, and then you have the manager's office here and everybody's over here, and then there's the cafeteria or whatever. But for creative businesses, it doesn't exactly look that way. A lot of creative businesses, I can bet if you're watching this now, you're probably like the only person in your creative business, or maybe you have like a small team, or even if you have a large team, it's not the same as, the traditional office setup. So a lot of people like to see what that looks like. We don't always know what goes on behind the scenes. We don't always know what goes on in a studio space, or maybe you like rent out a shared workspace. What does the behind the scenes of your process look like? That's always something very fun and interesting that your clients or your customers, or even your potential customers, your audience, your community, they always want to see. So no matter what this may look like, right? I know we always have that feeling of, it's not as glamorous as a lot of people. Yes, obviously your studio space may not be as glamorous as someone else's studio space, or whatever it is that you do. It may not be as fancy as we like to think that people would imagine that it is. But I think that's just where honesty and reality comes in, is that this is what I have, this is my journey, and then you share that. To my next content idea, which is to share your journey. Now, in sharing your journey, it's not just about like the way you are growing, it's to share your values, it's to share about your company, it's to share literally everything that you deem important enough to share. And even if sometimes a lot of things that we don't feel is important enough, it's actually very important. One of the things that I like to do here at Tristhetics is to talk about our values, our beliefs. This is the way we like to work. This is our belief system. This is our work culture. Just all those little details that help people to really understand your business, help people to understand your brand, help people to connect with you, right? So for example, one of the very important, I would say, work ethics that I like to pride myself with any business that I am running is work-life balance. I do not like to be too much. I do not want for our business to be too much. I do not want to kind of push the people that work with me to an extent that they just feel absolutely drained and frustrated, and it's like, I just want to go home, right? So work-life balance is something that is very much important to me, because personally I have gone through burnout a couple of times in my career. So I know what that feels like, and I do not wish it on literally anybody. So it's always important for me, that we have some level of work-life balance, right? And it's also important that the people that work with me understand the idea of what work-life balance is, because some people get it mixed up and it's just like random sharing, doing random stuff and thinking, oh yeah, you can play at work. If you have like, a place where you can sleep in the office, then that's not what it is, right? So it's always important to share those values. The next tip I have for you is to share your story. Now, this is one that is a little bit, deep, and a lot of people don't like to do this because, yeah, it can get a little bit personal. When you think about your story, what is your why? Where did you come from? A lot of people have this idea of, oh, this person just appeared out of nowhere. This person just blew up overnight. Not really. For a lot of people, they've just kind of gradually been growing up until they get to the point where you notice them, right? So share your story, share your why, share the things that you are passionate about, share the thing that gets you up and gets you going every day in the morning. Just, share the story of your business, share your own personal story. Believe me, your audience always wants to hear that. The next content idea I have for you is to talk about your team. Now, whether or not you have like a formal team, like, okay, I have a social media manager, I have a content creator, I have this, I have that. You have people that you work with, right? So it may not be like actually like a team, like people on your payroll, but it may be someone that you have collaborated with in the past. It may be someone that you've done some kind of work with. It may be like a freelance kind of thing, like you've outsourced this part of your business, or worst case scenario, it could be an automation system. I want to believe that every single one of us use some kind of email automation system or something just to automate some part of our business and make your workload a little less. So you want to be able to share like your team, something you're outsourcing, or even if it's an automation process. Next content idea I have for you is to share books, podcasts, videos, literally anything that you are watching right now, that you are reading right now, that you are listening to right now. I know for a fact that I always like to discover what podcasts other people are listening to, because I want to see if I would also be interested in that and if I can also hop on that. Same thing for books. I want to find out what other people are reading, so that if it's interesting, I love to read. And same thing with videos as well. I want to know what other people are watching, what YouTube videos seem to be making a lot of sense right now, and should I also be watching that? And the same thing for movies. I want to know what is trending. I want to know, I love movies personally, a little bit too much. I love movies. So I would always want to know, what movies are trending right now in the industry. Is this something I should watch? Is this something I shouldn't watch? Whether or not somebody says a movie is bad, sometimes I still proceed to watch it, but that's just me. So it is a very good idea to share books, podcasts, movies, literally anything that you're on right now, because this is kind of like adding a personal touch, that very much needed personal touch in your content creation process, and just helping your audience to kind of get to know a little bit more about you. What kind of things are you into? What kind of things do you like? I think you can tell a lot about a person from the kind of books they read and the kind of movies that they watch. What do you think? Another content idea that I have for you is to talk about family. Now, this is like an optional idea, because I know that for some people, family can get a little bit personal, like the topic of family can get a little bit personal, and they may not be comfortable sharing anything about their family, which is perfectly fine. But if for you really do not mind, then it's absolutely fine, really, as long as you don't just get into sharing like family secrets and all of that online. But it's a good idea, right, to share ideas, to talk about your family online, to share just, this is what we've been up to, we're going this place next week, this is, if you have kids, if you are staying with your parents, just, it's always a fun idea to kind of bring your family into the show. The next idea I have for you is to share other people's content. Yes, this is one that is, I think, highly overlooked, because a lot of times we feel like we have to be the ones to create original content. While it is good and it's important, because you don't just want to be that person that's just, replicating everybody else's content, but it is perfectly okay for you to share other people's content. So that's the next content idea. And the next content idea I have for you is to share educational content. Now, think about your industry, think about what it is that you do, what kind of questions do people have in this industry. If you don't know what kind of questions they have, then ask anybody. I mean, my sister has like a shoe business where she makes and sells shoes, and you can simply just go online and ask people, literally ask anybody that you know, what kind of issues do you have with your shoes? And then they tell you, and then you talk about that. So that's just an example. The next kind of content that you can share is inspirational content. Believe me, this is not to say you should become a motivational speaker, but we always need a little bit of inspiration every once in a while. So it is perfectly okay and a very good idea for you to be able to share inspirational content, motivational content. Something that inspires you would most likely inspire someone else, right? So if it's inspired you, if it got you into that high energy momentum where you're like, I'm going to get this thing done, it probably is going to have the same effect on another person. The very last content idea I have for you, and this is one that is so important because I feel we don't do it enough, is to share your wins and your losses. We hear about sharing your wins a lot of time because it's easier to share your wins. It's not easy to just show up and say, hey, I tried this thing and I failed woefully. No, you don't want to share that part of yourself online, but it's actually important. It's actually important that you help people to see that there are both sides to the coin, right? It's possible that you can try something and you can succeed at it, but then it's also possible that you try something and you fail at it. So it is important that you're able to share. This is not to say that you should literally all the time just be saying I failed. Share more of your wins. Let's just put it that way. Share more of your wins. But then also, if you feel like there's a learning, if there's something to learn, if there's a lesson in something that has happened, always share that as well. Let me know in the comments below which of these content ideas you can't wait to try, and let me know what you'd like to see me speak on next. Bye.